I want to welcome everybody to this demonstration. A picture can tell it all. When when did Nazaria Harris go missing? Exactly what day? Was this picture of Nazaria taken on the day she went missing? Before we get started, let me read my copyright disclaimer. Salute to my chat. Salute to the replay gang. Salute to my moderators. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. What that means is that everything that you hear in this demonstration is for entertainment and educational purposes only. I'm going to take a quick 30-second break, and then we're going to come back and get into this demonstration. All right. Salute. I will get down to the chat and entertain the chat in a minute. Now, this is going to be open panel. If anyone would like to join me on the panel, please feel free to join me on the panel. This is a demonstration that we're probably going to have to do maybe 3 to 4 parts on this demonstration because it's so much and I cannot cover it all in this short period of time. I will be going back to the preliminary. I will also be going to some of the witnesses' testimonies. But how do y'all feel? Drop a one if you feel like Nazaria Harris went missing before the 8th or the 9th. Drop a 1. Drop a 2 if you feel like this picture isn't the last picture of Nazaria. Allegedly, this picture was taken of Nazaria on the last day before she went missing. As I said, it's just a lot to cover. I did drop the link. If anyone want to join me on the panel, feel free to join me on the panel. All right, let's get started, y'all. Let's get started.
Or older, we have the defendant's birthday on the record, and that would be based on the testimony of the one minor witness that testified, as well as Cordell Wright's testimony. The minor witness testified that it happened at the old shop, and when Ms. Ripley was asking questions, she identified that as being the location. Cordell Wright testified back in November that they didn't move from that shop, which was at East Warren and Neff in the city of Detroit, until May or June, based on Nazaria's birthday, which is in her medical records. At that time, she would have been 12 years old, and the minor witness testified clearly describing an act of penetration, specifically penis to anal opening. With respect to the criminal child sexually abusive activity, that would be based on the text messages as well as the minor's testimony as well. Combining those two things satisfies the elements of those charges. However, going to count 1 in murder in the first degree premeditated, I would like to go through and put some of the pieces together. And we are standing here today in court on January 9th, 2025, which is 1 year, almost to the minute, the last time Nazaria was seen on a camera in the city of Detroit, which is on the screen now.
And I'm going to just stop. I'm going to stop. Now, I do like what Tammy says. Well, Tammy says she do look darker here in this pic. Tammy says she does look darker in the pic. And in my opinion, she does look darker. She does look darker. Is this Is this the black hoodie? What are y'all thoughts? Is this the black hoodie that they collected as evidence? Tyra says that picture is old. So we got Tammy mentioning that she looks darker. We got Tyra mentioning that the picture looks old. Tammy says she also has bruises. So as we could see, somebody went through a lot to try to deceive us. Yes, that's the black hoodie, but where's the pink jumpsuit? Correct. Where's that onesie at? Right? Where's that onesie at? No, she had that hoodie all the time. And I'm going to try to get to most of y'all comments. If I don't, just put it in the super chat. If I don't get to your comment. What she's wearing in the photo was what she was seen wearing when leaving school on camera, though. Or is it the same hoodie? Her face was fatter on the TikTok. Because she pregnant, that's why she dark. She probably was almost due. She went home and changed. But if she went home and changed, which the majority of us believe, then that's going to go against Marquita. That's going to go against, not Marquita, that's going to go against Shannon. Because Shannon stated Naziah never came home. But that's a good point. Salute, Miss Parker. Talk to me, Miss Parker. Naziah looked just like my niece, and that pic makes me so emotional. Talk to me, Miss Parker.
I want to say one thing that I think that if we go back to the preliminary, I just want us to stick with what they said, not what we think. What Annette said, right? She got her backpack. She going to school. Annette dropped off. You know what I'm saying? Annette dropped off. Annette gonna be able to tell if she got all these clothes packed. We still gotta understand, right? You know what I'm saying? We failing to realize that Annette seen her last, even though you gotta go back to why Shannon seen her last. The clothes have been changed. Marks and bruises that nobody else seen. That picture she had clearly had a mark on her head. So then we gotta move on to nobody else said anything about marks and scars and bruises. It looks good though, Shane. Come on, that picture's gonna make us really. We already emotional and pouring too. But we got Kim Worthy. Go look at her background. Go look at her story. Go look at her story. Her history ain't good. Her track record ain't good at all. But this is more captivating to America to see that picture and be like, dang, she was waving goodbye. So I want everybody to go back and think about that. Annette was strict. Annette was nasty. You think Annette ain't look at everything? Somebody runs a tight ship. So, yeah. She seen her last, though. And what she said she had on ain't the same. Where's the black jacket that she waved goodbye in? Where is that at? Why? I mean, the colorful jacket, the plaid. What did the teacher said plaid? Shank, where's it at? How did she end back up with the plaid jacket? I mean, the black jacket on the crime scene. How? Because they said they ain't seen her since she went to school, per Shannon and Annette. But I can't forget when the prosecutor asked Annette what, so everything went the same on the 9th? Yep, I dropped off and all the other kids at Woot the Woo, J.C. Clark, or whatever the name of the school is. That's all I needed to hear. So if she dropped her off, how Shannon see her last?
Mm.
Where's these clothes at that she walked from? Why the shoes changed? Everybody, Vari said she had read. I don't care what Vari said. I'm not studying it. I'm studying what she had on going to school. It wasn't what she had on going to school. So she just changed everything. She put on a pink jumpsuit and had shoes. Annette couldn't tell that she had shoes, clothes, and all in the backpack, Shane. I mean, we're going to talk about it with facts. I am. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of, add that in there.
That was some good observations, Miss Parker. The mere fact that allegedly, and I gotta say allegedly, and that says she dropped her off, but now there's video footage of her allegedly caught the bus. Shannon says she was the last one to see her. And then the most crucialest thing of your observation, where did she have these different clothes? And that saw her, and that dropped her off. Wouldn't Annette mention something glamorous? What are you doing with a bag full of clothes? Is that where we going at, Miss Parker?
Let me read a couple of these, Shank. Let's stick here. Let's stick with what they said. Alicia said, powder blue 2-piece set is what Annette said. Powder blue. I ain't see anything powder blue. Who said this about her hair? They said Jarvis said her hair was long, right? But then, not only that, the last picture we see her hair's in 2 puffs. Jarvis said long, but then they said Jarvis said she was getting her hair done in the basement, but then Jernell said on Mocha's that lady took her to get her hair done on the 8th. But then we can't count the school in. See, this is my thing. Pay attention. They said they marked her in on the 10th, but she wasn't there. How many days they mark her in and she wasn't there? Because, see, I'm going to need to see the date on that bus. I'm going to have to see a date on that bus. Not a picture saying, you already showed a picture wanting to get the, let me say what Tammy Cooper said. She said, I want y'all to stay right here. She said, yes, Miss Parker, potential jury sympathy vote. I know. Yeah, I know, Tammy. Exact, right there. Right there, because guess what that's going to do? That's putting an opinion in the jury's head already. And this is what I don't like. This is what everybody got to take off the table too. It's not taking up for Jarvis. It's that they're not trying to get all the monsters. That's why I don't like this.
And I think, let me slide in, Miss Parker. I believe, well, I know me and you, and I believe a lot of other folks, we are past, anybody trying to cover for Jarvis. And we already know ain't nobody trying to cover for Jarvis. We already know Jarvis is guilty. Yes, Jarvis is guilty. But what is Jarvis guilty of? And also, are there anyone else that is guilty as well?
But then this what gets me. I seen somebody say, well, Jarvis did almost describe 2 puffs. He did. But this is my thing with the prosecution. And why I say about Detroit, maybe not. I don't know. It just so faulty because this is my thing. Y'all gonna ask Jarvis. Once the detectives talk to Jarvis, that's what they should have built off of. Questioning these people. When they talked to the sister, they should have said, how was her hair? What did she have on?
Yeah.
Not did you see her and what did she do? What did she have on? What did her hair look like? Because I'm going to build off of what he said to the detectives. That's how you build. To make sure that everything collabing with what he said.
You cooking, Miss Parker. You cooking. You cooking good, too.
I'm just being honest. Then we got to get to the phone, Shane. King said she was on her phone. Then the sister described her as being small framed. She didn't see her face, but her frame. I mean, hell, what, you see her legs? Because how you see her frame, but you didn't see her face? And if that's the coat she had on, that coat looked pretty big, and she didn't look small in that coat per the picture I showed last night. Did she, Shay? It didn't look small frame. One thing looked small on her. I couldn't even see her legs.
Appreciate that super sticker, Nola. Appreciate that super sticker, Nola. Come on, Miss Parker, keep cooking.
I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just looking at the facts of what they said. I'm going off of the facts. Why didn't they ask King baby mama's sister how was her hair? See, again, why we not building off of what Jarvis said? Because he's the main suspect. So I'm going to build the case and the questions off of what he said to the detectives. Not just did you see her, what did she have on? What was her hair like? Do you remember her shoes? And they called Vari to verify the shoes. I mean, how could you call Vari and not Annette and Shannon? What? How could you not call the guardian of the child or Shannon? Does that make sense? Does that make sense that somebody would call my siblings about what my kids were? Does the shoes that they found with no DNA, Shane, let's not forget. Wouldn't the shoes have her DNA where she puts the shoes on and off and takes them on and off? I think your hands and everything touch your shoes. Don't they? But it wasn't no DNA on the shoes. Wasn't nothing on the shoes. Like, but Vari said, why didn't they call Lynette or Shannon? We got to start making sense of this case. We got to remove their lies and put the truth onto it. Really.
Nola says, preach, Miss Parker.
I mean, I'm just asking. Y'all, let me ask the chat. So, y'all child live with y'all, but they gonna call the child's sibling to verify the shoes. I just need a yes or no on that. Do that sound logic? I'm just talking about logic. The logic of it. She lives, Annette's the guardian, right? Why didn't they call her to verify the shoes? Because she know what shoes, because she dropped her off at school.
Facts.
So why would they call Vari to say anything? And not the adults. When you listen to the story, I say, okay, that's the lies. So now I got to put the truth to it. And Shank, again, I want you to, you got what Tamara said, right?
Yep, give me a second.
I want you to read that one more time for the people in the back.
This is what Tamara says. I was a participant of the original press conference on February the 4th, 2024 of the missing Nazaria Harris. When I walked the grandmother and daughter Shannon to the car, I asked, Has Naziah ever done this before? Ran away. Her response was, I ain't gonna lie. She has left before, but told detectives that this has never happened and how good of a kid she was. So that's the first lie that was pointed out. Correct, Ms. Parker?
Yes, sir.
There's more. It's too many discrepancies with this family, all the way down to the description of clothing that Naziah originally left in.
Hold on. What? Go back to the word she uses. Too many what?
Discrepancies.
What do discrepancies mean? Lies. Too many different stories. I mean, I need the chat to help me in Shank Rock. Ain't that what discrepancies mean? Too many lies and stories.
It says the clothes that were found were completely different than the clothes she said she had on when she left that morning, including the shoes.
Stop right there. Don't move past this, Shank. You gotta stop right there. What did she say? What did she say? Who said? She said what she said. The clothes was different than what she said. What she said she had on that morning. Stay right there. Don't go past it. How did that? Shank. And this is the first division. She's not over Naziah's division. You know what I'm saying? She's not over that division. But she said, you know, she likes to participate in all of those, you know. She wants to make the communities clean, whether she's division over that or not. What did she say, Shane? The clothes was different than what she said she had on. That's all I needed to hear from an officer. From an officer. She said discrepancies, too many. The clothes changed. I don't need to hear nothing else. Thank you. Annette, sorry. We can't change that. We can't keep moving the goalposts past what Annette said she had on compared to the clothes that they found. Did she say that was different than the clothes that was found?
That's what she says, in black and white.
Where's those clothes that she went to school in? That's what we need to be seeing. Should have been at the crime spot. They couldn't remember, Shane. They had 30 days. They didn't know when they planted them clothes. When Jarvis went out there with Lucretia's car and planted them clothes. Just like, you know, when you tell one lie, you got to tell another lie, you forget what you say. You forgot what you said because you told a lie. When you tell the truth, it stays the same. That's why they can't forget. That's why they had to call Vari, allegedly, call Vari and verify. They called a child to verify a child. But when they went to question Vari, how y'all gonna question Vari about the shoes when Vari clearly wasn't even living in the house? When y'all went and questioned him. That's why he's not a witness. Saying the lies. The lies. So they gonna go questioning 8 males from the 7 mile only to question them about clothes and shoes. How would he know? Cause see, he got to verify. They got to verify the barbers in the house. Cause don't forget, he done did interviews too. So they can't take that shit back, Shane. They can't take back the fact that he said he been gone for years. Let's talk about it. That's why tomorrow when I get done with my power walk, Shane, I'm going to call down there and I want to ask him. Can I talk to somebody that's over the case? And I'm going to ask them because I'm going to say, I'm only talking about what they said. And I'm gonna just say, I'm not calling to ask y'all questions about the case or nothing. I'm just saying, please don't drop the ball as that's y'all already done. I'm gonna say, because I need y'all to go look at all of these lives, not look at the content creators, because we're reacting. But I need y'all to listen to what they said. And how y'all can call a child that wasn't even living in the house and ask him anything. Because I'm going by the evidence y'all presented at the preliminary. Y'all said wasn't no DNA on the shoes. Hell, I thought they was hers. Y'all got DNA on everything else, but not the shoes that Vari said was hers. They said Roxy and Mark D found the clothes and shoes. I'm trying to understand why Auntie Butterscotch, they got her for the ID. Why wasn't they on the stand for the clothes? They had her mother saying that they found the clothes, and then the mother said that the man had to pop on TikTok. I showed that. He said, well, I thought you said Roxy dumped the clothes out of a bag. Why was she tampering with physical evidence? Why she didn't get picked up? Why is the police taking credit for finding the clothes? Which one is it? But go ahead and read what Tamara Liberty Smith said about the family.
She also says, per the flyer, she was wearing a light blue jean shirt, light blue jean pants, pink and white Rugrats coat with a fur collar, and blue and white Nike gym shoes. Now, this is what she says. She says, even if you can remember, the pictures on the flyer changed. Originally, it was the photo of her, head slightly tilted, and she looked older. She says, I usually get to the bottom of things very quickly, but this little crazy slick family got me stuck. Let me repeat it again. This little crafty, slick family got me stuck. Where the hell is Naziah? I feel we've been purposely sent on a wild goose chase.
Let's stick right there to what she said, family. She didn't say two people. She said the family. I think I pay attention to every detail. Alicia pointed out something too, Shank, which was very interesting. Ain't it funny? So, shout out to Brittany Ann for bringing up the fact that ain't that funny that Vari girlfriend went missing too. While we here, I'm gonna give Les Shank. I'm gonna do it over here because I got something else going on tonight for my all-nighter. But let's talk about the paternity. I didn't get to talk about the paternity. The last two lines of the paternity test. Shout out to my moderator, Taco Prince and Kenya. So when we get to reading the preliminary, right? I mean the paternity, Shane, the foster care, it's two lines at the bottom. And it says April the 10th, 2025. No cases are open and inactive. And we did further research that till 4 o'clock in the morning, y'all, and y'all go do it too. And go pay attention to the codes that's on them and read some of it. It talks about jaundice. Who got jaundice, Shank, and a baby? It's an infant. Infants are the only one that has a jaundice, right? See, y'all got to go do y'all research. I do mine. Go do y'all's. That's why I was calling for Kenya last night to come up and read about jaundice. I was like, jaundice, that's only in a baby. Hold on. That's why I posted it on my community wall. So y'all could pay attention to April 10th, 2025. But I digress, to each his own. I'm not here to make nobody think of nothing. I know what the meanings are. I know what foster care is. That's why I say pay attention not to what's just in the words, but pay attention to the family. What Tamara just said in that post, the family. The family. Because who we've been hearing from, the family. she got the kids, and oh, she do got the kids, and oh, them posts are lies, and those are no, 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 no. Only for you to do an interview with Marquita and say about the phone being lost or stolen. That's why I say for my riders, use y'all thinking caps. For the Rock Squad, let's I mean, it's we getting close to that time, y'all, where the jury selections grade start. We're getting close to June the 20th. What's gonna happen on June the 20th? We know Jarvis got all them essays coming. We trying to figure out where Nazaya is. And why the family ain't guesstimated or said nothing about where she is or where they even think that she is. It just keep being lies on top of lies. The teacher said, well, you got that, Shane. Go ahead and finish your show. Let me go on and, go on and finish cooking, Shane. Because she said something different too. I'm getting confused about the outfits and the clothes myself, Why they didn't ask that in the preliminary? That should have been strictly based off of that. What she had on. What was her hair like? Did she look pregnant? Nobody even asked them, did she look pregnant? They never asked nobody, did she look pregnant? These are key points. Only for nobody to bring it up in court, and then here come Jawbone talking about, we know for a fact he's the father. Well, hell, y'all didn't ask nobody. They gonna have the nerve to ask Shannon. This is how you know Detroit is on some other. What kind of relationship do they have when y'all know y'all got the text messages? They didn't nobody go to jail for that, for her even saying she got the auntie and uncle, but yet she read the text. Even after saying that, she know that they read her the text saying that she seen it in the tablet that they was having inappropriate conversation. What we got going on in Detroit? I didn't get it. I'm gonna say, Alicia, what kind of relationship did Shankrok and Mocha have, right? But then turn around and ask her, so you opened it up and what did you see? Well, I see messages between them. So what we doing? Why didn't they ask about Nazaya? Where she's at? Nothing. So yeah, I ain't going. But you go ahead, Shankrok. Salute to the Riders in the Rock Squad. I'll see y'all later on tonight. I'll be in the chat, Shank. I gotta look for something.
All right. Appreciate you, Miss Parker.
All right.
If anybody else want to join me on the panel, click the link. Let's go back to the final arguments.
The last time that she was seen was on January 9th, 2024 at 2:56, getting off of the bus at 3 Mile Drive in Cornwall and walking down Bedford.
Now, was that the last time? Was that the last time? Nola says, I thought that were the name for yellow fever, jaundice over in Africa. Exactly when did Nazaya go missing?
She was walking towards what she didn't know at the time would be Jarvis Butts and her ultimate murder by him.
Wix, one platform, any website, unlimited creation.
We take that moment in time and then go to Cordell Wright's testimony where he testified that they picked Nazaya up on their way back to their shop at 9000 Connor, and they proceeded with her to that location. We have Jarvis Butts' sister's testimony, Tijuana Butts, who did say that she saw a young girl with a very descriptive and distinct jacket getting in and out of that car, the white Cadillac Escalade. That would have been before Jarvis, Cordell, and Naziah departed for Ypsilanti. We have Sergeant O'Rourke's testimony as to his cell phone locations based on cell tower information and the historical call detailed records, which placed them consistent going out to Ypsilanti. And then we have Cordell's testimony getting them back to the shop. Talacia Moore also testified to seeing Naziah in Ypsilanti with Cordell and Jarvis. Cordell, as we know, testified that he had to get back to his house based on his tether hours by 9 p.m. And that is the last time that anyone who is not Jarvis Butts would see Naziah Harris alive.
So, according to King, at 8:45, Jarvis and Naziah was together. Slide in, Lisa.
I'm gonna be brief. I try to put myself in their shoes just to try to get some type of defense for them. And I probably need some clarity because first of all, her stomach was hurting. Did she go to the nurse? Okay, as well as if she stopped going to the afternoon program because of a dispute with another child. At 4 something, school ended what, 2, 3. My first concern would be that that they had banked my child hurt, not missing. And I noticed that Shannon on the stand, they said, what's her normal activity? She said afternoon program or coming home. She never said the shop. It seems as though something is and I'm just keeping it real, it's very suspect about that. And she went on her way to say that she was talking to Naziah during school hours with no conversation about her stomach hurting. So you have any clarity? Did she go to the nurse? Right. I mean, did they like run to the children that she was having problems with? I would have thought, oh my goodness, they done beat my son up. Let me go check with these children. Let me go to the shop. And for real, on a school day, why would that child be at the shop? 8 something. Doing what?
8:45.
That's 4 hours after, quote unquote, Florentino said she called it in, which was the truth don't change. And I just don't hear the truth. And I'm not trying, so many people want to blame the victim or the victim's family. I'm really not trying to do that. I'm really trying to get clarity. Actually, I would love to be wrong. And I just would like to be proven wrong. I want to say, yes, I want somebody to say, yes, she went to the nurse. You know, I want them to say, we immediately went to them children that she had a problem with to make sure she wasn't fighting, was hurt somewhere. Yeah, we ran to the shop. Say something. Other than you laid down and decided to call the school police the next day. And I'm out. I love y'all. I just need clarity. If anybody have any answers, help me out so I can help them out.
Appreciate you, Lisa. Love you too.
I love all of y'all. Salute.
All right. Britt says, speaking of Naziah, praying for Skilla Baby. He was pop out multiple times today on 8 Mile in Detroit. Wow. Wow.
From the shop, we proceed out to the Park Crest Inn, where Jarvis Butts checked into a hotel at 9:30 p.m. And Sergeant O'Rourke's testimony corroborates this, placing his phone in the area of that 20,000 Harper address at around midnight till early in the next morning on the 10th.
Once again, we are not making no excuses for Jarvis. Jarvis is guilty. They got evidence on Jarvis. They got evidence. In my opinion, and this is my opinion, right now, they've produced evidence to link Jarvis to sexually assaulting Naziah. They got that. They showed that evidence. So they got Jarvis with that. However, there are more players. There are more players that's involved in this Nazaria Harris case. If you don't want to take my word, there are at least 10 other content creators, at least 10. You can go and check their word. We all say the same thing. I haven't ran across a content creator yet that don't feel like there are others that is involved in this case. So we're not trying to give Jarvis a pass at all. 9:30 p.m., but not with Nazaria proof evidence going in or out. Now, we all know about the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole is very deep. I don't think he unalived her, but he helped cover that ish up. Everyone is guilty. Now, for those that are new, this rabbit hole, me along with the other content creators, we have went over the rabbit hole. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, this is the gatekeeper of the rabbit hole. Without him, none of these characters, besides the female that sexually assaulted Jarvis when he was 13, without the gatekeeper, even Jarvis wouldn't have been able to operate. Jarvis wouldn't have been able to get nowhere near any of those children in that family. Right? Now, of course, the gatekeeper couldn't have stopped any of these females from dealing with Jarvis. The gatekeeper couldn't have even stopped his own niece, Shannon, from dealing with Jarvis. But as far as them babies, the gatekeeper would have made sure Jarvis didn't even look at them babies. But I say all this to say that we want to make sure that everyone that's involved, everyone that failed Nazaria, we want them all to be held accountable. We want them all to be held accountable. Because if you don't get all of them, then you are leaving these monsters out here to operate and possibly hurt one of your children. So that's why we digging deep. And that's why we're not resting until we get to the bottom of this. You can shut up Shank Rock, but then you got a whole lot of other content creators. You can shut up this content creator. It's too many content creators. And there's too many subscribers that see what's going on here. Where is Nazaria Harris? When did Nazaria Harris really go missing? Is this picture of Nazaria Harris, is it the last picture before she went missing? When did this picture of Nazaria Harris get taken?
Using the data that you see on the screen in those times. Recapping January 9th, this is the last time that we have any sort of communication from Nazaria. There was, if you look at those messages that Sergeant Jones went through and read, just between Nazaria and Jarvis, there was consistent and constant communication up until January 9th. There's also no messages from Jarvis after Nazaria goes missing on the 9th, looking for her, seeing where she is, trying to find her, trying to help, as anyone should do at that time, her family locate her. There's no messages to her phone, to that Text Now account from Jarvis Butts' phone. Her legal guardian and grandmother, Annette Harris, has not seen any social media posts. The OIC of the case, Sergeant Jones, has not seen anything for a total of 1 year now. The Lieutenant George Harris, who was involved in the investigation in the first month, didn't see anything that he saw from social media or Text Now after the 9th. Jarvis Butts on the 9th, we know, borrowed Latricia Johnson's car overnight, which was unusual. He borrowed that and then again borrowed it on the 10th or 11th. We know that Naziah's glasses were found in that car sometime after the 10th or 11th when Latricia Johnson was at that shop, and Jarvis Butts snatches them out of her hand.
If you're a YouTuber and you
Let me
want to
say
save
this.
hours managing your library, you need TubeBuddy. Come check out how you can edit your end screens, cards, and descriptions of.
And that's just my opinion. And y'all let me know if y'all feel the same. All right. If Jarvis was the only one that was involved, and that would have definitely, or this case would have definitely been taken more serious. And it's just my opinion. The school police gets a report that a 13-year-old girl, 12-year-old girl is missing. It takes 30 days. It takes a month for the school police to get the DPD involved, Detroit Police Department involved. It took them 30 days. Right? I say that pick was at least 2 years ago. Annette and Shannon got to go to jail for it all to start to be done. Exactly. With their funky asses. Yeah, y'all know my favorite word. They are some funky asses. Shank, you are so right. Big facts. Because Jarvis is a guppy. Jarvis is a small fish. He's a small fish. However, and we've heard this from the lady that inappropriate touched Jarvis at 13. Her son said that all them women, he said a lot of them women, all them women is in sexual relations with Jarvis. I think if they wasn't guilty, they would talk. Facts. They need the ish scared out of them. Maybe they'll talk. I'm surprised the police weren't shaking them down. I believe the police is a part of it. Salute LaTanya. They all look like old pics. I believe after they seen she was pregnant, they probably said, don't post no new pics. Plus, lady took her to get her hair done, allegedly. Right. Now, how does what's lady involvement? This is what we all feel. This family has some dark secrets. And this family ain't right. Now, me, along with some of the other content creators, we had the pleasure of interviewing some of the family members. Day one, Annette said things unearthed her involvement. The brother cop don't seem that active. Salute Legacy. Crazy, no new pictures, just like Kimani old pictures. And lady had her phone allegedly. For sure. Salute Daisy. They had their way with that baby. She could be anywhere. They had a whole month or more. Facts. I just think they're using lady as a scapegoat because lady don't supposed to be around her allegedly. That's a good point. Make sure everybody shares this to your social media platforms. Now, and that hasn't came on, or Shannon hasn't came on. Got to be a part of it. Once the head of the house get taken down, then rest of the pack will fall. That's facts, Craig. Now, when it comes to Annette and Shannon, many people point this out. Shannon referred to Annette. Should we call the police? Right? Miss Annette said no. Wait till the morning. Correct? So, what do y'all think about that? Salute, Leezy. Salute, Leezy. I think, my opinion, Annette is more involved in Naziah's disappearance. Annette is more involved in Naziah's unaliving than we think. Bashari, she jumped out bushes to go to school. Report she didn't come home. Salute, Kenya. Blessings to all who are not letting this case go. Keep trying to help Naziah be found. Salute. And she still didn't go to the police. That is why I think she was not there the time she came up missing. Correct. Salute, Blue Devil G. Annette knows everything. Facts. It's a reason why Annette said wait till the morning. It's a reason. Because Annette is more involved than we think. From Annette testifying that, well, Jarvis don't come in the house. Both of them are lying. Then we saw the picture of the birthday party when Miss Annette broke her neck to get the Jarvis. And those choice of words that she had with Jarvis indicates a little bit more than what Miss Annette is trying to have us believe on that stand, as she reported her as a runaway, not missing. Exactly. Knowing that they family have a history of reporting runaways. That family has a history. DPD, Detroit Police Department, wasn't going to take it as serious as they would have took it as if it was a missing persons report. And that is slick. Yeah, you slick, Annette. That's a lie. The guy next door does Naziah Harris' hair, and lady doesn't have any money. And why go to school looking for Naziah Harris? My mom would just be mad at me. I'm calling the police. Jarvis just destroyed and planted, but didn't unalive that baby. They trying to put lady in the mix because they know that they going down. They know they did her daughter bogus. Yeah, and see, that's another perfect alibi. See, they got Jarvis as the scapegoat. Now here they go with throwing lady under the bus. Well, lady was with her. She was with lady the night before.
From the Park Crest Inn and from January 9th, we go out to 7 Mile and Burke. This is by far the most important location in this case because we know that the defendant spent from 11:40 p.m. on the 10th to 1:34 a.m., nearly 2 hours in that area, in that wooded area where the Rouge River runs through. And to give, this is from the slideshow of the scene photos that were taken at 7 Mile and Burke. This is the area where it's the people's theory Jarvis Butts did at least one of two things. Either killed Naziah at 7 Mile and Burke, but at the very least dumped her body in this location.
Drop a four if you believe Jarvis unalived Naziah. Drop a 5 if you believe Jarvis didn't. Give me a 4 if you believe Jarvis unalived Naziah. Give me a 5 if you think he didn't. I'm going to throw up the 4. We got a 5. We got some fives. We got a lot of fives. We got more fives than fours. Ain't no way a real grandmother gonna let a child that's supposed to be home the same time every day let that slide. Cops would be called. Facts. I wish we can find out who that girl was who went missing, who was under Annette care. Good point.
We know this because of the evidence that was found there, specifically the black hoodie, which you see in this photo here, as well as the pink bodysuit and the shoes that we confirmed or that are hers based on the picture that the OIC received from her brother. And those items were and importantly, Rion Green scene photos that were taken at 7 Mile and Berg. This is the area where it's the people's theory Jarvis Butts did at least one of two things: either killed Neziah at 7 Mile and Berg, but at the very least dumped her body in this location. We know this because of the evidence that was found there, specifically the black hoodie, which you see in this photo here, as well as the pink bodysuit and the shoes that we confirmed.
Okay, now he spoke about the pink bodysuit, right? But in this picture, she don't have on a pink bodysuit. If this is the alleged last picture of Neziah, she don't have on a pink bodysuit. Now, some might argue, and I do believe it would be a legitimate argue, but some might argue, well, Shank, she was reportedly, by King's testimony, she was with Jarvis at least up until 8:45. So maybe she changed at the shop. She could have changed at the shop. And I'll take that. Maybe then people might say, but Shank, where did she get the pink the onesie from? She might have had it in her bag. Females, girls, they do carry bags with a change of clothes. But I'm still going to question that. Why it was a pink onesie found with that black hoodie, but in that picture, she don't have on no pink onesie. I'ma still question it.
Confirmed or that are hers based on the picture that the OIC received from her brother. And those items were collected. The black hoodie and pink jumpsuit were tested. And importantly, Rion Green testified as to which swabs were which. This analysis here and hypothesis and result pertains to the right shoulder swab on Neziah Harris's black hoodie that she took that picture in when she was in school on January 9th. The one, importantly, that Annette Harris testified was in good condition when Neziah left. We will get to pictures of that, but this shows that Neziah Harris's DNA is there as well as Jarvis. And importantly, this is one of the stain swabs that was positive, not just for blood, but human blood based on the hemotrace results. In the next one, we have, this pertains to not the stain swabs, but the regular swab that Rion Green testified was a wearer ID swab. Importantly here, Jarvis Butts' DNA from that swab that would have been taken around the neck of that sweater or the end of the arms of that sweater is there with very strong support. And of course, Neziah's DNA is there as well. And when we look at that sweater specifically through the PowerPoint photos that Rion Green took and put together, we can see that there is a lot of markings on this.
All right. Now, what are y'all thoughts? Is this sweater the same sweater that she has on. What are y'all thoughts? I wish I could have had them to have it side by side. But what are y'all thoughts? Let me see. Aggie says no. What are y'all thoughts? Leezy says wow. Tyra says yep. Oh, that zone says yes. Legacy says no. Let's see. All right. All right. So we got some no's and yes. Look at the sleeves and string. All right. That's not that same sweater, y'all. Let me backtrack. That's not that same sweater. Because this one looks a little thicker. Let me see, y'all. I don't think it is, y'all. All right. Nursery says, I think it is. So we got mixed feelings. Yes, no. Let me get my it is disfigured. True. It don't look like it. Capricorn says it's not the same sweater. Can we get an interview with Kim Worthy and all her? It can go either way. Some feel like it is. Kenya says it looks different to me. Red says this evidence is so tainted. Yes. Where the strings? Kenya says our children need all of us to protect them. Moms, aunts, cousins, sisters, brothers, everyone. Oh, that zone says, well, it is disfigured. Good point. Then she had two sweatshirts on. Lizzie says both of their DNA is that. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. Let's look at it one more again. Tracy says it looks washed out black. The one she's wearing is not faded. Right. Let me see. What are y'all thoughts? This one looks thin. This sweater looks thin compared to this one. This one looks thicker. But then again, I don't know, y'all. I don't know. We're going to come back to it. I'm going to try to get them both together. I'll try to get them both together.
D swab. Importantly here, Jarvis Butts' DNA from that swab that would have been taken around the neck of that sweater or the end of the arms of that sweater is there with very strong support. And of course, Naziah's DNA is there as well. And when we look at that sweater specifically through the PowerPoint photos that Rion Green took and put together, we can see that there is a lot of markings on this. If the court looks closely on this, and I did, there are 15 phenol positive stain markings on this sweater. This is just the front of that sweater. And of course, the court paid attention and saw the markings or the damage to the hood, that it is the people's theory would have been stab wounds or something to that effect that happened when Jarvis Butts murdered Naziah Harris.
What about the zipper? Y'all? Yeah, it looks like it. Look at the zippers. One looks silver and one looks blue. The tip of the sleeves is not the same. Oh my God, was the zipper different or am I tripping? After what Jarvis did to it, being out in the elements, not to mention the DPD crime lab analyzing and marking the sweater. I don't know, y'all. Cause on this one, the zipper looks darker. Then, like you said, it was outside. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna just say that I don't know.
We also have to look, and it goes to the premeditation element as well as everything he did before at Jarvis Butts' actions, specifically what he did to attempt to conceal or cover up his role in the murder of Neziah Harris. First, we have the glasses that he made sure he grabbed directly from Latricia Johnson's hands when shown, that are consistent with the glasses she had in the photo from the 9th when she was in school. We have the jail call to Cordell Wright to get that phone of his out of Miss Davis's car and into someone else's possession, which he testified he tried to do, but was ultimately unsuccessful. And then Sergeant Jones testified that they ultimately did recover that phone from Miss Davis's car. There's the phone call to Latricia Johnson, which was played when she was testifying, saying to get anything he touched clean, to clean anything he touched, to get anything, don't drive her car, drive his mom's car, which is important because when you combine her testimony of when Jarvis Butts took her car, those 2 times on the 9th and 10th, and then either the next day or that same day, it's important because that car is the car that he transported Neziah Harris out to 7 Mile and Bird to either dump her body or to murder and then dump her body there. And we can go through all of the lies that Jarvis Butts told any detective or any officer that he testified to, but in highlighting those, he denies to Detective Mays that he was with Neziah at all or had talked to Neziah at all on the 9th, denies ever picking her up, denies to, even when confronted with the January 9th messages, he said that it wasn't him initially. Obviously, we heard in the subsequent interviews, specifically on June 1st with the OIC, he came off of that. He told Shannon Harris that Neziah texted him on the 9th. She says that he never did that. And we have some of their messages in the record as well. He denies going to a hotel and denies going to a hotel with Neziah Harris and denies having any sort of sexual relationship with Neziah, even though the text now messages completely prove that that is an absolute lie. We also have his motive. We know from Sergeant Jones that he was going to be going into custody supposedly on January 9th for until roughly December, I believe, is what Sergeant Jones testified to. We know that that date was adjourned because he said in his interview that he had a legal issue. He said it was out in Clinton Township, but I submit to this court that that's not the legal issue he was talking about. He was talking about the legal issue he would have had if Neziah had been left alive. He had to make sure that when he was in custody, that she was not going to give birth to any child of his. That's his motive in this case. That's why that's January 9th. Sentencing date was adjourned to February 7th so he could take care of that potential legal issue. He was being told consistently by Neziah throughout the months that she might be pregnant. And then on 11/27, she says to him that it's hard to do this gym shit with this baby.
Now, I will say he has a strong case. He's in my opinion. Prosecutor, they're giving a strong case as far as a motive. What are y'all thoughts? Drop a 6. Drop a 6 if y'all think that the prosecution is giving a strong motive for Jarvis wanting her unalive. Drop a 7. Drop a 7 if you think the prosecution attempt is weak.
Come check out how you can edit your end screens, cards, and descriptions of all of your videos with just the click of a button. Go now.
Less than a week or 2 weeks later, he's searching on Google how to abort a baby, how to not just abort a baby or get an abortion, but how to do it at home, how to get rid of that without any medical professional or any responsible mandated reporter knowing about it. We clearly have that motive. And obviously, Judge, one of the big issues in this case is proving that Neziah Harris is dead without having a body. On January 9th, she vanished off the face of the earth. There is absolutely no evidence after the 9th that she was alive, that she was sending messages to anyone. Her, again, legal guardian had not seen her since the 9th. No one else, officers, friends, family have seen her since the 9th. There's no social media post reviewed by any officer to this day that would indicate she was alive. There's no messages, no further messages on text now after the 9th. There is a full and complete stop of any activity that would indicate she was alive. And Judge, I submit to this court that if that were the evidence that we had at this point, that would be enough at this point for a probable cause determination to show that she is in fact deceased today.
What are y'all thoughts? Do you think they gave a probable cause, a good enough reason to why they believe she's deceased? 50-50. I mean, I get it, but once again, nobody. You got clothing items, nobody. In my previous demonstration, I said, why would those that unalive Naziah, why would they take the necessary steps to make sure that there is no body, but then be careless with the hoodie and the pink onesie? Kenyatta says, show me a body, then I'll believe it.
However, there is more than that. Her hoodie found at 7 Mile and Berg, which we just saw a photo of, has Jarvis Butts' DNA on it and Naziah Harris's DNA on it, and it is covered in blood, indicating that something traumatic happened to her. And
now they got me with that one. That's a probable cause. If Jarvis's blood, Naziah's blood as well is on them clothes, that's a good enough reason for me. All right. So he in my opinion, he's cooking. He's cooking, in my opinion.
And all the other evidence shows that something traumatic happened to her at the hands of Jarvis Butts. And then we go back to his motive, was told by Naziah that she was pregnant, searched all of the home abortion procedures, and was going to go into the Wayne County Jail until December, which we just passed, of 2024. Judge, I submit to this court that the evidence that you have heard over the last 4 days proves not only that Naziah Harris is currently deceased, but also that she was murdered by the defendant, who had plenty of motive to do so, had plenty of opportunity to do so, and he did that. And I will note that the defendant in this case, Jarvis Butts, does not get a break because he successfully hid her body. The evidence to a probable cause determination, which the question is she probably dead? And did the defendant probably do that? Both questions are answered with a yes, based on all of the evidence that you have seen. I would reserve any further argument for rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
What if recording high quality content, editing like a pro, and streaming like a star was as simple as hitting record?
Sorry.
I know how well aware the court is that we have a very serious task here. We've been here for 4 days, and at this point, we have to look critically at what we've heard and what we've seen over the last 4 days and determine if there's enough evidence by a probable cause standard that Mr. Butts committed premeditated first-degree murder. And if you look critically at what the evidence is and the lack of connection between these pieces of alleged evidence, there is not even by a probable cause standard. To bind over on premeditated first-degree murder, there has to be sufficient facts or evidence to show by a probable cause standard that each of the elements of premeditated murder in the first degree were committed. First, there's got to be a death.
I'll take that, Tammy. Probable cause is the reasonable belief that a crime has been committed. I'll take that, Tammy. But King was at home because he was on what the hell, make more sense. All his best young. I think them overgrown BS did more than Jarvis. There's probable cause, but I'm not sold he did it all by himself. Why would Jarvis' blood be present unless she was fighting him back to defend herself because he gave her antifreeze? No blood would need to be present, so that means it would be maybe not intent. Good, Erling. That's a good observation. Very good observation, Erling.
There has to be evidence that the defendant caused the death of the deceased, that some action that he made or did caused that person's death, that there was an intent to kill, that the intent to kill was premeditated, and that it was deliberate. And here there is not enough evidence, even by a probable cause standard, that Jarvis Butts caused the death of Neziah Harris. There's been no testimony of any eyewitness stating that they saw Jarvis Butts doing any act that could have caused Neziah Harris's death. There's been no testimony of any eyewitness that they saw Jarvis Butts doing anything in preparation of doing something that could have caused her death. And there's been no admission of Mr. Butts to support that element. There's not probable cause to believe that Mr. Butts had an intent to kill Neziah Harris, nor that he premeditated her death. There's no evidence of any threats made by Mr. Butts to Neziah. There's no evidence of any threats made to a third party that he was going to do something or that he had a problem that he had to take care of. The issue or the statement was he had a legal matter. And Ms. Davis testified that she was aware of an issue that he had in Clinton Township and that she was the one that was driving him around to court. There's no testimony that he took any specific action in a deliberation to kill her or that in killing her. There's Google searches about legal ways to abort a child, not how to kill somebody or dispose of a body.
That's a good point.
There's no evidence that he did anything.
What are y'all thoughts on that? That's a good point. With the Google search, that's a good point.
Related to the Google searches. There's no receipts of purchases or anything like that. And these text messages were 2 weeks after they were, I believe, December 9th and 10th, which was, I believe, 2 weeks or 13 days from 11/27/23, which is the text message about gym class. And then there's this kind of cryptic text message in between that says it healed. We don't know what that means, but we don't know what Mr. Butts took that to mean. It doesn't necessarily mean that he believed she was pregnant. There's no evidence of a pregnancy. We have medical records until, I believe it's October of 2023, that don't indicate a pregnancy, that she had been to the doctor in September when she originally texts or messages Mr. Butts and says she thinks that she's pregnant.
What are y'all thoughts on that? What are y'all thoughts on that? The defense says there was no proof, no receipts, no evidence that she was pregnant. The defense resulted back to the text message from Neziah that she thinks she's pregnant. I think the defense is holding her own, as well as the prosecution.
There's no evidence of a pregnancy. She went to the doctor. We heard from both her guardian, her grandmother, and her aunt, Shannon Harris, who lived with her. No testimony from either of them that they suspected that she was pregnant, that there was any medical issues that they had to take care of because that would have caused them to think that she was pregnant. There was an insinuation, well, was she wearing baggy clothing? Was she wearing bigger clothing? There was no testimony that they had to go out and buy new clothes for her because her clothes didn't fit, or that she started wearing baggy clothing. She was wearing denim pants on the day that she disappeared. And there's no testimony that those were not pants that they had recently bought because she didn't fit into the clothing that she previously had.
Do you know what's really fun? Making a website on Wix.
Hey, we're How Ridiculous 3.
There's no evidence of any kind of plan. There's no messaging between Mr. Butts and Ms. Harris that indicates an escalation of animosity between the two of them. In fact, he essentially kind of starts to disengage. And so there's no written evidence that he had any kind of plan or any animosity toward her at that point. Our submission would be that he understood at that point that she wasn't pregnant and was disengaging. Let's talk about what we did see. So we know that Nasiah got on her school bus around 2:45 on the 9th. She got off the bus a few minutes later, and then she was seen walking up Bedford. She was wearing at that point light color blue jeans, a black hoodie, and then a colorful coat with fur around the hood. There's some insinuation that somehow there was a plan that she would meet up with Mr. Butts, but the testimony of Mr. Wright was that they were driving around that afternoon back and forth to various auto parts stores, and I believe that they in fact had to go back to one kind of unplanned because they either missed something or there was an issue. And so to say that somehow Mr. Butts would have known that she would have been on that street at that specific time and that they would have been there at that specific time is quite a leap, considering they didn't know where they were going to be when, because they were doing all this driving around back and forth to various stores. Witnesses put Nasiah at Mr. Butts' auto shop later that afternoon, and then in Ypsilanti with Mr. Butts and Cordell Wright, and Mr. Wright puts her back at the shop later that evening. But then we hear from Sergeant O'Rourke, who did all the cell phone mapping, that at 9 p.m., Mr. Butts was actually at 13662 Wilshire, which is his home, where Angel Leonard lives and where they have kids. So
What are y'all thoughts about that? At 9, did she say 9:20 p.m.? Jarvis was at his home. Let's backtrack, and I'll take y'all comments on this. What are y'all thoughts on this? Here's a alibi for Jarvis.
considering they didn't know where they were going to be when, because they were doing all this driving around back and forth to various stores. Witnesses put Nasiah at Mr. Butts' auto shop later that afternoon, and then in Ypsilanti with Mr. Butts and Cordell Wright, and Mr. Wright puts her back at the shop later that evening. But then we hear from Sergeant O'Rourke, who did all the cell phone mapping, that at 9 p.m., Mr. Butts was actually at 13662 Wilshire, which is his home, where Angel Leonard lives. And
what are y'all thoughts? At 9 p.m., Jarvis was at the home. Let me see what y'all talking. Any comments on that? Jarvis could have been telling Shannon nasty stuff. He was picking her up. Why didn't he pick his daughter up as well if that was the plan? He said he always picked them up together. He never picked his daughter up. It would be in the transcripts, and it's not. He could have left her there while he ran over there. That's true, he was. He didn't get to the hotel till 9:30. The reality is Nasiah should have never been alone with a convicted pedo. That's facts, T. That's facts, T. The unaliving either happened on a separate day, which is why he borrowed his baby mother car again, or the unaliving happened sometime between 3 and 8 p.m. Good observation, hey girl. Good observation. It's good observation.
and where they have kids. So did Nasiah go back with him to that house? And then at 9:30 is when he checks in to the Park Crest Motel. Now, we don't know who was with him there, but there is no evidence that Nasiah was ever there. They searched it. They took DNA. They took clippings of various things. They swabbed the shower drain, and there's no evidence that she was ever in that room. We did hear testimony that the Park Crest is a known place where Mr. Butts frequents and takes various lady friends for a rendezvous. It's much more possible and plausible that he took one of his lady friends there, than somebody who he was going to kill, right? He's going to a place where they know him. He's a frequent flyer there. And is he going to take somebody there where he would later, before he was going to kill them, that makes no sense. That is not logical.
Good point. Good point.
We heard then that after Mr. Butts left the Park Crest Motel, he went to 4 Alexandrine, which is Midtown, so kind of across town. And that's where his other girlfriend, Najine Rushing, lives. So did he take Naziah with him there to see Miss Rushing? And he stays there for a while, I think, according to Sergeant O'Rourke's mapping. And then we hear that he is at 7 Mile and Berg on January the 10th at 11:40 p.m. for over an hour. That's almost 24 hours from when he initially, it's beyond 24 hours from when he initially is with Naziah, or when he's last with Naziah. And so it's illogical to think that he was driving around with Naziah, visiting all of his girlfriends.
Is he asleep?
Or if he had.
What are y'all thoughts? I see somebody say he's sleeping. Lift your head up and take that mask off. Red says Jarvis is asleep. Jarvis ain't the only one sleeping. The attorney sleeping. What the hell is going on with they funky asses? Somebody tell Shank Rock what the hell is going on with Jarvis' funky ass and his attorney's funky ass. Wow. Wow. Both of them sleep.
We heard then that after Mr. Butts left the Park Crest Motel, he went to 4 Alexandrine, which is Midtown, so kind of across town. And that's where his other girlfriend, Najine Rushing, lives. So did he take Naziah with him there to see Miss Rushing? And he stays there for a while, I think, according to Sergeant O'Rourke's mapping. And then we hear that he is at 7 Mile and Berg on January the 10th at 11:40 p.m. for over an hour. That's almost 24 hours from when he initially, it's beyond 24 hours from when he initially is with Naziah, or when he's last with Naziah. And so it's illogical to think that he was driving around with Naziah, visiting all of his girlfriends, or if he had done something to her previously, that she was in the car with him while he did that. And in fact, they took a cadaver dog around the car and didn't find anything. And they tested the vehicles, all of his vehicles, every car that he drove, for DNA, for any sign that Naziah had been in there, and they found nothing. And the call to Miss Johnson asking her to wipe down the Sentra that she used, that he had borrowed, is kind of irrelevant because she testified that she didn't do it.
What kind of dope, what kind of heroin has Jarvis and his attorney got a hold to? Because both of them is nodding like a dope fiend in Baltimore down Lexington Market. Appreciate that membership, hip hop. Appreciate that membership. If you ever been to Baltimore and been down Lexington Market, you know what I'm talking about. They had some good dope, the kind of dope that had you, Lord have mercy, with they funky asses.
That she did nothing based on what he called to say, and they still didn't, nothing was found. We heard about a pink jumpsuit that was found. We didn't hear any testimony that anybody saw Naziah wearing this pink jumpsuit. She's not seen wearing it in any video. I don't believe that anybody even identified it as being hers. I don't believe there was any testimony from either Annette Harris or Shannon Harris stating, yes, we recognize that pink jumpsuit. That's something that Naziah wears.
Right, right.
When did she have it?
Right, right.
There was one blood stain on that jumpsuit. And the testimony from the forensic analyst, Rion Green, was that it was such a small stain that she was afraid she would consume it if she did additional testing. She tested it once and couldn't do any follow-up testing or confirmatory testing because she was afraid they were going to consume the sample. There was also no statistically significant support for finding Mr. Butt's DNA on that stain sample from the pink jumpsuit. And there was no statistically significant probability that his DNA was on the jumpsuit at all, that he had had any contact with the jumpsuit. And they took a lot of swabs of that jumpsuit. I believe the number was that forensic analyst Anderson testified to, that it was 24 trillion times more likely to have originated from two unrelated unknown contributors than Jarvis Butts. And we heard about the black hoodie. And that black hoodie was significantly more weathered than the pink jumpsuit. We heard about that from the Border Patrol agent Barnes and other folks that came into contact with that sweatshirt, that it looked like it had been out in the weather much longer. And we don't have an explanation for that.
Let me jump to the chat real quick. Drop a 8 if you think the prosecution is winning. Drop a 9 if you think the defense is winning.
But those appear to be tears in the top of the hood. They don't appear to be stab wounds, and they certainly don't appear to be bullet holes. There's weak support for conclusion that Mr. Butts was a contributor to the stain and the swabs of the black hoodie. The only real support for any DNA on the black hoodie was on the non-stained part. And there's testimony that Ms. Harris was wearing that hoodie on the 9th, that she was in Mr. Butts' Escalade when he and Mr. Wright picked her up after seeing her walking down Harper, that they were in the car driving in up to Ypsilanti. And so the possibility that his DNA got on this non-stained part of the black hoodie is not evidence of premeditated murder in the context of all of the ways that we heard somebody's DNA can get on a piece of clothing. And I kind of talked about this, but we heard testimony that Mr. Butts drove both a Cadillac Escalade and a Nissan Sentra on January 9th and January 10th. There's a lot of pieces of those cars that were tested. Trunk carpet from various areas in both cars, the driver's floor mat, the driver's seat, the door handle, trunk speakers, the trunk frame. All of those things were swabbed for blood and nothing was found. We heard about a school ID card that belonged to Neziah. We heard Valerie Smith testify that she noticed it at some point in February, maybe a month or so after Neziah was last seen, and that she decided to pick it up 2.5 weeks after she first spotted it. But she was pretty clear that she only noticed it about 2.5 or about 2 weeks before, but that she looked at it every single day. Seemingly, if it had been there before then, she would have noticed it. When did it get there? We don't know. There was no evidence. There's no testimony as to that. And there was no other evidence found in the 7 Mile and Greenfield area, and there's no evidence that Mr. Butts was there. We talked a little bit about the medical records, but all they tell us is that Neziah Harris didn't have a life-threatening condition as of October 24th. They don't tell us anything about her physical condition between the 24th and the 9th, and they don't tell us that she was pregnant. They're just not relevant, except for the fact, I guess, that they don't tell us that she was pregnant, and she was there on September the 27th, according to her text messages. What we haven't heard in the last 3 to 4 days is anything about a murder weapon. We've heard that they collected guns, but we don't know if any of them actually operated, and they tested them for DNA, and there was nothing found. When did those guns get taken from a house? When did they get put back, if any of them had been used? And I mean, we just simply don't have any evidence as to whether they were even touched by Mr. Butts. But certainly there was no DNA from Ms. Harris on them. And if one was to use a gun to bludgeon somebody enough where they break the skin and bleed, there's going to be DNA on that gun. If somebody is shot at close range by a gun, there's likely to be DNA on that gun. They found no DNA on a gun. There was initially a testimony about all these knives that were found, and then When Mr. Riggins did a little bit of digging, well, one of them was a butter knife. One of them was rusted and under a seat and looked like it had been there forever. There's only one knife that they were actually interested in. They sent it for testing and there was nothing on it. And we know that they can test for blood even if something has been wiped clean, because they do that. And in fact, they did that in this case. They found no blood on anything that the prosecution is positing could have been a murder weapon.
You could have 1 million followers and still not be able to pay your bills.
Over 1 million creators and brands are growing faster.
Let me get some of y'all comments. Y'all roasting the hell out of Jarvis and his Snow White attorney. JJ says, Jarvis is asleep because he's nervous. You know, when you were an adolescent and your mom always going to beat you behind, it made you real sleepy. Told you. Technicalities. It's January. She did not have on just a jumpsuit. If she did, it was under her regular clothes. Salute, Shelly. Granny says she had on something plaid, the Ring camera. Salute, man. Jarvis works on cars. He wasn't arrested until February the 7th, and he knew that car was the main source of evidence. Why wouldn't he fix it before he got arrested? Good point, Capricorn. Why they didn't check Shannon's or Annette cars for DNA or blood. Miss TT says, I'm so confused now. It's cold in January. Y'all make it make sense. Talk with Prince says, that's because weapons was someone hand. Lady, go on. Nah. She said they swabbed for blood, but what about fingerprints? Make sure y'all pull up on Miss Parker later on. I think Miss Parker going live at 12 or even 12:30. I'm not going to hold y'all that much longer, though. Mumble jumble, mumble jumble. Big Doug over there, Big Doug over there thinking about Popeyes after work, 4-piece and a biscuit, 2 jalapenos. It's her tone putting him to sleep. I almost just dozed off. Boy, y'all something serious down there in that chat. There's more DNA than blood. If whoever did unalive Naziah, it was real clean, meaning not a lot of blood. Right. And that's what gets me, Kenyatta. But why would they leave behind that hoodie and the pink onesie? Talk with Prince says, Rig, stop that. That's a big if. Hip Hop says Jarvis' lawyer looked like he sold dope to get through law school. He didn't went from sniffing dope to selling dope. Look at him, y'all. Look at him. Look at his lawyer. Woo! 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 One thing about this Naziah Harris case, it'll make you cry. It'll make you feel bad, but then at times it will make you laugh until you got tears coming down your eyes. Lord have mercy. Ray says he's struggling for real. Yes. Lord have mercy.
Motive is not an element of premeditated homicide. There's evidence that Mr. Butts and Naziah had a sexual relationship. And we are, at this point, not contesting the bind over on those counts. That would explain why Mr. Butts would not want to be honest about why he was with Naziah Harris. That would be enough to make somebody want to lie about their whereabouts or their connection to somebody. There's no evidence that it went any further than that for him. No evidence that he had been confronted by anybody about a sexual assault. No evidence that he was being threatened by Naziah to expose him or get him in trouble if he didn't do something that she wanted him to do. By the time January 9th rolled around, they weren't really speaking that much.
And the reason why I hear you, that zone, but the reason why is because, and this is just my opinion, they already got Jarvis on the sexual assault. They got him on that. And I think their strategy now is to look, they got you on this. However, let's work on getting you a not guilty verdict on the unaliving. Which one would you rather have? I ain't gonna hold y'all that much longer.
She was in those text messages that we heard getting frustrated with him for ignoring her, but never once did she say, well, if you don't talk to me, I'm going to tell everybody what we've been doing. And so there's a complete lack of any motive for him to respond in that way. And I would point the court to a case, it's called People v. Fisher, and it's 193 Mishap 284. It's a 1992 case, and I've got copies. Got it. Does the court want? Yeah. And I point the court to this case because it's a case where homicide was charged and no body was found.
Yeah, I want to hear this, y'all. I definitely want to hear this case. But Kimberly says, two made me laugh when she was calling the lawyer Blossom. Shout out to two. They put them CO. Kimberly, I cannot unsee that now. She act like she don't believe the ish she's saying. How long she had to prepare for this? Of course, she didn't threaten to tell because everyone already knew. And that had reasoning. If they would have found out Nazaria pregnant, she would have lost her benefits and the children. She's putting me to sleep. The lawyer back there dreaming. Ooh, them clothes. I think Jarvis already knows his verdict, but it ain't the M word. And where is Jarvis' clothes at that he had on the January the 9th? Because those clothes need examining. Correct. She just put her clothing together 5 minutes before starting. All right, let's backtrack, y'all, and then we're going to get out of here. Make sure y'all pull up on Miss Parker.
Her husband was charged. He was convicted, and ultimately the appellate court reversed the conviction because the evidence was insufficient to submit the case to a jury. And so that was the error. And kind of the facts briefly are that Mr. and Mrs. Fisher were in the process of divorcing. It was a pretty contentious relationship. There had been lots of reports that he had been physically abusive to her. And she had even testified that he had threatened to kill her in mid-January of 1978, approximately 3 months before she disappeared. In April of 1978, apparently they were out together, they had lunch, and he was the last person to see her. After that, she disappeared. Now, there was no substantial testimony in that trial regarding her reliability, her long or short-term plans, that she had children, that she was devoted to them, and that she wouldn't have had any reason to run away or leave. And so that gave rise to an inference that she was deceased. The prosecutor in that case offered no evidence of an act that resulted in Joyce Fisher's death. And the court previously has held that the victim's body, while it's not necessary to establish corpus delicti, there has to be something more. There has to be, in this case, either an admission or confession, physical evidence, or some kind of witness testimony. In that case, there was no physical evidence, such as bloodstains or a weapon, linking the defendant to Joyce's death. He did not admit that he killed her, although the prosecutor offered equivocal statements there, that he seemed to say, well, things didn't happen quite that way, and where it made it sound like maybe he did have something or some knowledge. The prosecutor there presented lots of evidence of defendant's motive and opportunity to kill her, but noted that those are not elements of the crime. And inferences, the court says, may not be based on evidence that is uncertain or speculative or merely raises a conjecture or a possibility. And they said, in that case, the evidence did not rise above the level of conjecture. And that's what we have here. We have conjecture. We have a lot of pieces of supposed evidence, but we have no connection. They don't connect to each other. They're puzzle pieces. When you put them together, there's no picture. There is no big picture because there is no act that can be testified to that Mr. Butts did, and there's nothing to support that act. There's no evidence that he had a gun and used it. There's no evidence that he had a knife and used it. In fact, the evidence that the prosecutor put forward disputes those theories.
What are y'all thoughts? Did she raise a good defense? What are y'all thoughts? I appreciate everybody for pulling up. We will continue this. We will continue this on tomorrow. We'll probably do it 12:30 p.m. I'll probably do part 2, 12:30 p.m. Matter of fact, I'm going to do part 2, 12:30 p.m. tomorrow, and then I'll do part 3, 10 p.m. tomorrow evening. Salute. I appreciate everybody for pulling up. I'll see everybody over there with Miss Parker. I'll let a little bit more of this play, and then I'll see everybody over there with Miss Parker. Salute, everybody.
The idea that Mr. Butts was in some cover-up, the issue of his phone, I think was pretty well cleared up by Ms. Davis when she testified to the idea that for as long as she's known him, he's never wanted her to look at his phone. And mostly because he's been dealing with who knows how many other women. And that she had tried pretty much everything she could think of to get in that phone well before any of these allegations came about, and that she's never been able to. And so it makes sense that he would not want her to get in that phone, especially if he assumed he was coming home and wanted to have contact with her while he was serving his sentence in the Wayne County Jail, that she not know that she was not the only female he was dealing with. We acknowledge that probable cause is a low standard, but it isn't just limited to whether the prosecution has presented significant or sufficient evidence on each element of the offense, which we submit they have not. They also must determine that there's a reasonable ground of suspicion supported by circumstances sufficiently strong to warrant a cautious person to believe the accused is guilty. That definition of probable cause, or that characterization, comes from People v. Carter, which is 250 Mishap 510. And so you have to have both elements of the crime met, and also those elements have to be met by evidence that is sufficiently strong to believe that it is relevant, that it actually proves what it is saying that it proves. And here we have conjecture, we have speculation, we have supposition, and we have somebody who he did have something to hide. But there's no evidence that he did anything about that. He didn't threaten her. He didn't ask her, or say, if anybody finds out that, I will go to jail, or you could go to jail, or you could be hurt. There was nothing like that in any of those conversations that we saw.